Phase Zero, Season 4, Episode 6. I'm your host this week, Jenna Anderson, and joining me today are Nick Valdez.
Howdy, everybody.
Jamie Durack.
Good morning.
And Aaron Perrine.
What's going on, everybody?
So a little bit of housekeeping up front before we get into a lot of Marvel news this week. Thank you so much to everybody who listened to our X-Men bonus episode on Monday. We are starting to do the bonus episodes on Monday just to try it out. And it seems like people had a lot of fun with it. In 2 weeks, on the 19th, we will be talking about X2. So rewatch it or watch it and join us for that. Next week's bonus episode should be a lot of fun. Beatty and I interviewed Zawe Ashton about all things tied to the Marvels, and she was so wonderful. Like, it was a absolutely delightful interview. I cannot wait for everyone to see it and listen to it because it was so much fun. But yeah, so stay tuned beyond that because there should be a lot more Phase Zero coming out very, very soon. I've done enough rambling, so we'll get into the news of the week. And I think Aaron has the very first story of the week because you helped add it to the rundown, which was hugely appreciated.
Oh, no problem. The reason I am so disheveled this morning is because while we were getting ready for this show, some inventive Twitter investigators figured out that Pedro Pascal is supposed to start production on the Fantastic Four soon. This comes from the SAG Foundation website, so it's not just some random thing. It had to go in his bio, which I'm just like, what in the world? And by the way, for a talk that happened 2 days ago, so someone was like probably trying to look up his talk and then looked in the bio, their eyes probably got really big and they ran to their computer to set the internet on fire. What does everybody think about Pedro pretty much being Reed Richards?
Just announce it. Just announce it. You're making me feel crazy. Yeah, I mean, like a SAG is that's a pretty reliable site, but also who knows? Who knows? I don't believe anything. Everything's real. I'm like in a simulation. I don't know. Just tell us. Just like, who cares? Just give us the information, Feige. I need to know. I need to sleep at night. But it seems legit.
It is so funny to me after, like, I know Aaron and I joke about like the Crab Rangoon principle of just things getting leaked in ways that we don't expect. But like after literal years of this discourse and this debate and like, who is the FF? Like we now are just, it feels so unceremonious to just like have it be in these little press releases and stuff like that and not even actually be confirmed from Marvel itself. So I agree with Jamie. Just announce it. Just say who the four are or just say anyone and just get started because I still don't believe this movie is real yet. So.
Yeah, me neither. It's not real until I'm literally sitting there watching it because even if they announce casting, even if they film, we've seen over the last year that means nothing. So it's not real until we're watching it, but it would help it feel a little more real if Pedro Pascal came out in a Fantastic Four hat or something. Like, just give us that.
Can I add? Yeah. Please do not announce it right now, though, Marvel.
No.
Jenna worked very hard on this rundown. I do not want to scrap this rundown, so we just do Fantastic Four reaction.
It would make it so much easier. It like, I don't know. We could at least, because then we wouldn't have to do like an immediate reaction episode for it or something. Like we would at least be able to talk about it on air. But
Brandon Davis would be so mad. He would be furious.
It would be the funniest.
He would be upset.
Oh my gosh.
Let me in.
Well, Nick mentioned the Fantastic Four baseball cap, and that segues perfectly into our next story. Jamie, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, speaking of hats, Kevin Feige wore a new Deadpool hat while accepting the Saturn Award for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And it was cool. It's like a circle of half Deadpool, half Wolverine. He's, you love it. I once physically almost bumped into Kevin Feige once and he had the Agatha hat on. And so I was like, oh, he's ready for the next thing. But we still don't know what the title is. Did the back of the hat say something on it? I only saw a picture of the front of the hat.
People were like analyzing the back of the hat because it looked like it had Deadpool and then other words on it, but like there was no way to decipher whatever words. If you were on stage with Feige, you probably could tell, but like every video from out in the audience, it just looked like lorem ipsum, like gibberish. So there's been a lot of debate about what the title will be, which is funny because also, hearing through the grapevine when we may or may not get a trailer for Deadpool 3, it might be sooner than later. So like the fact that we're debating the title when we could find it out very soon is very funny to me. But yeah, Aaron, Nick, how do you feel?
Friend of the show. Go ahead, Nick. Go.
No. I was just gonna say, just call it Deadpool Wolverine, and like it doesn't even need to have like a versus or X in between it. Just call it Deadpool Wolverine, and we'll be right there. Yeah.
I was gonna say that, like, yeah, as someone in the comments pointed out, friend of the show, Eric Voss, always with a magnifying glass. He was asking followers and like, yeah, there we go. Let's get that Zapruder film in there. So in the back of it might have said Deadpool 3 : like cast and crew, and that's why it's so long. But of course, that's somebody doing the CSI enhance on it, and we don't know. You know, someone on Twitter who's a calligraphy expert trying to look at it and cross-reference, like, well, that does look like an E, but I don't know. In the 19th century, it could be an AE. It could be a Norse thing. Thor is in it. That's how people are doing on Twitter right now. So I don't know.
I do like the cast and crew theory. That like hadn't occurred to me at all. So hopefully maybe that ends up being the case. I don't know. I don't see them having like a massively long title for this because I feel like, just like Nick said, just saying Deadpool Wolverine or Deadpool 3 seems to do more than enough for like SEO purposes. So
I think it needs to be an and in there. I think it needs to be Deadpool and Wolverine.
Or what if it's like a slash? What if it's like, you know, full like AO3 tags or something?
I want it to be a colon so bad because that's really funny.
Yeah.
If it's just Deadpool : Wolverine and everybody's like, what? What do you mean? Like it's beginnings.
Yeah. It's either that or like go full comedic with it and be like Deadpool, the one with Wolverine in it or something.
There we go.
Yeah, like,
that works too.
It's either or. I feel like it's going to be either very simple or just something just out of the box. So
who knows? Hopefully we'll find out sooner than later.
Wolverine: Dawn of X. Ryan reflects in the comments.
I will say, Aaron, to your point on the colon, I remember it being a huge joke when Winter Soldier was coming out. Like on Tumblr, people would joke, like the title of Winter Soldier was literally just Steve Rogers, Bucky Barnes, like when you break it down. So it's like, it would be funny to have just Deadpool : Wolverine. But yeah, who knows? We'll have to see. I feel like we couldn't not talk about Deadpool 3 on the show in some capacity. But yeah, coming to another topic that feels impossible to escape from on any episode of this podcast in recent memory, Daredevil set photos. There are a lot more. We talked about this on the show last week of like, is this too much? What are they going to show? What are they not going to show? And then we got a lot more than we had expected. We're not showing any of them here. We're not talking about the specifics here if you want to remain spoiler free. But are they too much now? I almost think that they are. I think we're seeing so much to the point where I've seen people have conspiracy theories that like these are fake scenes that are being filmed, which is kind of crazy in and of itself. But how are we feeling?
I think it was Adam who tweeted something along the lines of like, Marvel's never going to do real location on set locations again after this. And it is kind of frustrating because it's cool to it's going to look good seeing them in New York, actually in the city. And it is a bummer that so much is leaking. I don't understand like how it's this much. It's a little, and I think it is a little frustrating, but also I don't believe that they're filming fake scenes. Marvel has money, but I don't think that they have money to literally burn like that. I don't think that, especially after the box office of last year, I really don't think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's some real copium talk. You know, that's some like, I've seen so much, it has to be fake. No, it's the real deal, and you know, whatever makes it to the screen is what makes it. Yeah, but it is a lot, and for someone like me who isn't in the Marvel space every single day, every hour for work, I've already seen too much, and this is just being normal on the internet, just being there. You know, so like I can't imagine that, you know, people haven't seen what's out there. It's very hard to avoid it because no one's tagging anything either. There are no tags anymore. People are just like, hey, here's the thing, and it's like, oh, cool, thanks, appreciate that.
I will say on the copium angle, I do feel like part of the reason why people are like, oh, these are fake scenes is because some of the content of some of the scenes where if you are a Daredevil comic fan, you think that it might be alluding to certain things that you don't necessarily want to see happen. But who knows? Like, we don't know the context of any of this. And I think that that is a huge point. And the fact that we keep getting all of these photos out of context, I think is kind of getting crazier and crazier. But yeah, Aaron, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on this.
Last week, people were telling me it was fine because it was free promotion, and now we have swung the other way. We have swung the other way in the comments. Everybody's like, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "We can't have nice things. We cannot have nice things." Because I agree. If it does not do well, I would doubt they're going to shoot a lot of this stuff in real life, because we've had 2 straight Marvel productions now, both Deadpool 3 and this one, where telephoto lenses have ruined a lot of the stuff that would have really, really kicked butt for you to just discover on your own. So I hope that doesn't completely discourage them. I think they just need way, way, way better security, I guess. I don't know. Like, but also, Nick, I think there are, like, it's not reshooting fake scenes. It's shooting multiple takes of scenes like an in-game.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's a work, brother. I think it's I think it's a work. There are multiple things being filmed to throw people off the scent of what may or may not be happening. And look at me trying to tap dance around wild things that love to yell about. But yeah, you guys can find half of the stuff online. Marcus Ward was saying that, like, costumes are costumes. Oh, baby, the stuff that people are figuring out from these set photos go far beyond the costumes. Stay off Twitter. Mute Daredevil if you're really sensitive about this stuff.
Yeah, Nick said it doesn't matter. Muting doesn't matter anymore. Like, people don't put words in things. It's it's Wild West out there.
You have to mute photos somehow. Like, it is impossible. Like, that's the thing. If you're just looking, if you're on X for whatever reason, on Instagram for whatever reason, these images are in Getty apparently too. So it's like, certain websites have put them in their headers. So, you're gonna see these things.
Yeah, I will say, Aaron, you did tap dance around that very well. It was like Feige was like shooting at your feet like a little like Old West movie, and you nailed it. But I will say on the Daredevil front, there was a report last night that does seem official and is not leaked. Jenia Walton, who is in Never Have I Ever and Candy Cane Lane, has been cast in Daredevil as, quote, a young journalist with connections to a character from the original series. So Daredevil fans immediately put two and two together. She's probably someone tied to Ben Ulrich, maybe a daughter, even though he doesn't have a daughter in the comics, or maybe just some sort of family member. How do we feel about this if that is the case?
Makes sense, right? I mean, a daughter would not make sense because of how much time is spent talking about his relationship in that first season. I'm going niece.
Okay.
Great niece. If she's
bold to employ the Sharon Carter method. How dare they are leaning so hard into trying to get everybody who loved that Netflix show in here for this thing. They are trying their damnedest. They are just like, we are going to, bend over backwards to make sure if you love any part of the Netflix universe, stick around, come on back. So it could be interesting. I've actually started to try and actively stay away from the photos and try to stay away from the theorizing, because we're all very, very smart on the internet. It's like a league of Jennas. If I don't want to know what happens, I should just stay off. So hopefully it's good.
Nick, how do you feel?
I mean, it's cool. I don't have those deep ties to the Netflix show. I kind of hope it's sort of like when a show gets canceled on a network and starts again on a new network. And it's like, it's technically a new season of the show, but it's also a season one. So it's like, yeah, you have incorporated elements, you have cast members from that old show, but it's like, oh, this is a new place for me to start. And I kind of hope that's what the situation is, because I haven't seen Deadpool season 3 since it came out, which was like 1,000,000 years ago in our time. So if you tell me this person is connected to another person, I'll be like, cool, okay, I don't care. Let's do it. Where's Daredevil?
I totally agree. And then one more piece of speculation or lack thereof that started this week. So Tom Holland took to social media earlier this week and said that he had a big announcement coming. He attached it to a video of him playing golf and saying the word 4. So naturally, people thought that this was some sort of Spider-Man 4 update. It is not. He is starring in a revival of Romeo and Juliet. So we talked about this on our Spider-Man 4 episode about when they can start doing updates and when they would have to start production, but the whole fake out is just so hilarious and kind of sad to me. How does everyone else feel about it?
First, I want to say that I love that he's going to do some theater. I think that Tom Holland is a talented actor, and a lot of his movies outside of Marvel just haven't hit or connected with people. Like they just haven't done well. And I think getting on the stage and proving that you can do Shakespeare is pretty cool. I'm a big Shakespeare fan. I love the idea, even though Romeo and Juliet isn't my favorite of Shakespeare, unless we got Leo and Claire in there doing it. But I saw a tweet about this and it made me laugh so hard. And it's the idea of announcing Romeo and Juliet with just a man on the cover and the actor is objectively hilarious. And maybe there's just no woman cast yet as Juliet. That's very possible. But like it literally looks like a Hamlet announcement because you can't. Announcing Romeo and Juliet with just a dude is truly funny. But I'm hoping it just means that there's no woman. But like it's also I'm very curious to see if it's going to be someone big, if they're going to get like a theater person in there or another film celebrity. I'm very curious to see how it's going to go down.
I mean, wherefore art thou Romeo? That's what the 4 was for. Wherefore? But
You're right.
The funniest part of the news, though, is seeing people say it's a stage adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, which is just like going back to Aaron's talk of crab rangoons and just everything kind of piled in on top of each other. That is just the funniest aspect to me. Like, I mean, come on, but that's funny.
Yeah.
Put respect on Baz Luhrmann's name. God darn
Yeah.
Yo, okay. A little inside baseball here is that the theater company that is putting this on is like branching out from previous Jamie Lowe, and he worked with Tom in the past. So putting his name out there in front is to help get people invested in their from the ground level venture because there's not that many productions they put on. This is one of the first big ones. So of course his name's gonna be big on the poster to get you in there. I also think Jen is absolutely right that they have not cast the actress yet. Because probably Tom is probably gonna get to pick who it is and have some say so on who they're gonna cast, probably, I'd imagine. It's like, you know, I've been joking around about don't get worked, don't fall for these pump fakes because I get worked all the time. I get excited about stuff. I think that Rhodey's not a scroll and then it ends up being a scroll. Don't be like Aaron. Do not get worked. Do not get fooled by this stuff. You think with his track record of giving away information, Sony's ever going to let that boy say anything to the point where it's become a meme against all of us? Like, why would it come from him? Like by itself.
I mean, but also, why wouldn't it?
That is true.
I mean, I don't know. See, I'm just making things even worse.
He did announce the title for Far From Home, I think. I remember the whole like Twitter, Instagram video of him doing that. So like Sony will trust him with caveats. But yeah, this whole situation is just so funny. I'm excited for him. I hope that this project turns out really well. But it's just the fact that we have to talk about Romeo and Juliet extensively on this podcast is kind of hilarious. Like, what a world we live in of trying to look for
that we get to.
That is fair. You got me there.
Kevin Feige walks out of the stage and Comic-Con is like, coming in phase 5, Billy Elliot is back. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh man, the Hamlet saga. Just give us that. Let's do it.
6 films. That's how we got RDJ back.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick 1-minute break. And when we come back, we have a lot of comments, a lot of quotes about actors who may or may not be returning to Marvel related properties. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back to Phase Zero. As I stated, this is kind of our will this character return or not section of the show. Kind of related to that, we have a new Donald Glover quote that was very interesting. Aaron, take it away. Oh, you're muted.
Oh no.
There we go.
Oh, I'm back. All right. Hooray. They can't silence me. So during a Vanity Fair actors on actors interview between Maya Erskine and Donald Glover to promote Mr. and Mrs. Smith, she asked him about, hey, were you in Spider-Verse because they were sad about not casting you as live action Spider-Man? And he kind of laughed and said that he's a little bit too old to be playing live action Miles. So he said, no, I don't think they even thought about it. There's definitely going to be a live action Miles Morales eventually. And I think that they're probably more concerned with me being Prowler and that or something like that. I'm too old to be Spider-Man now. He like laughed as he was saying it. So Donald for Spider-Man fans, if you could read this, if you hear my voice, go take some Metamucil. How does everybody feel about him being live action Prowler, him not being Spider-Man?
Take some Metamucil. Oh my god. I'm glad he said it because I do feel like there's still a small subset of the fandom who has advocated for this recently, and there's no universe in which this could work unless it's like Miles 20 years into his career. So I'm glad he said it, but I do want to see him as live action Prowler beyond just Spider-Verse because that would be amazing.
Anyone who is still like, Donald Glover is going to be Miles one day is like, what is going on in your brain? Come on. First of all, he's already Aaron, and we got that little live action nugget in the last animated movie. And so like, yeah, I would love to see him full on be Prowler. That's just where we're at. I think we need to set realistic goals for ourselves, people, and that getting him back as that character is very realistic. But the days of him wearing Spider-Man pajamas in Community were like a decade ago. We got to let it go.
Yeah, it's funny that FalconsNet in the comment points out that I never even knew that was a fan cast, which is hilarious because that's how old the idea is, right? Like it is dated. So, so I don't mind seeing him as Prowler. I would also be down for like an older Miles someday, but that's also like by the time that comes around, he might be too old for that too. So it's time to move on.
I also did just remember, and I didn't even put this in the rundown, he's still like, there's that Hypno Hustler movie that was supposedly in the works, which, you know, if El Muerto can happen, then maybe that can happen. And that sounds crazy enough for Sony to make work. So we're going to see him in some sort of Sony thing, but it's not going to be as Miles. Like we said, I think that idea passed like 10, 15 years ago.
And listen, also go get your colons checked out if you remember Donald for Spider-Man as well. It's this time. And it is right, exactly. You gotta go do a lot of stuff, man. Get yourself a pill organizer, it's good. I have one, it's great. My biggest big like weird wish list thing for the next couple of years is that somehow if we must do Kingpin as Spider-Man 4's antagonist, as so many of the fandom wants, I want him to come back basically as that Prowler after he escaped. Because I'm sitting there, I'm like, Spider Society's in like peril. At the end of that movie, it might not exist anymore. You have him, it's have him be a henchman, and he doesn't have to be around for a bunch of movies. He gets to like have, you know, the moment of the fans excited about it. It'd be great. Also, when he inevitably bites it and it traumatizes some poor kid that they cast as Miles and makes Tom Holland furious, it's going to be good. So there you go. That Hypno Hustler thing, that doesn't even have a date. You talk about Fantastic Four doesn't exist. It's never happening. It's never happening. God bless.
If El Muerto can happen, anything can happen, which apparently they're trying to make El Muerto happen again. So who knows?
Nonsense.
I know. I'm glad we could mention El Muerto when Nick, who is one of the biggest El Muerto defenders, is on the show.
I mean, if I'm saying it's nonsense, it must truly be nonsense.
All right. Well, on the topic of franchise returns or comebacks, BD talked to Josh Brolin during the Dune Part 2 junket, and I think we have a clip of him talking about Thanos. So, Peter, take it away.
Of your work as Thanos, one of my favorite villains in anything ever. You did such a good job with the character. He is now officially, through What If now, the most killed off Marvel character in MCU history.
Really?
Yeah, he's died more times on screen than anyone else in the Marvel universe. Okay. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, and if you think there's any more kind of stories you'd like to see him tell.
You know, I hear kind of like through the grapevine that they're going to bring him back, and there's the What If series, and that's a different kind of Thanos and all that. But I don't know in the Marvel world whether they're going to bring him back. But I didn't know that he was the most killed off.
I think it's like 5
Marvel
or 6
villain.
times now.
What, in the 2 movies?
Well, twice in Infinity War and Endgame, 2 times in What If, in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I love it that you know this. I didn't even know that. I learn something new every day.
Man.
Even I was mentally trying to run through all of the times that it happened. I'm glad BD had the receipts. But yeah, how do we feel about Josh Brolin's comments?
I just love this interview. I love that Brolin is genuinely impressed with BD. It's really sweet. And you can tell that Brolin really just loves Thanos. And as much as whether or not we need to see him again, I don't know that I really care either way. We've all said this, like, let's move forward. Well, we've gotten so much Thanos. I don't need him again. But I also love how much Josh Brolin loves it. So the whole hear through the grapevine thing, it's every time I hear something like that, I'm like, Secret Wars. I just feel like everyone and their mother is going to pop up in Secret Wars for something. So maybe he's just going to fly in the copter, be like, hello, and then that's it. But we'll see.
Don't threaten me with a good time. I need the Thanos copter. Beyond just being in the void in Loki, I need it to be real. So if he just like came in and we just heard like a little music cue as he's just flying in, that would be so great. Oh my gosh.
I mean, in Secret Wars, or in the newer one, Thanos has a pretty huge moment that they could definitely pull off in live action and would add to that count that BD was mentioning. So, you know, I think that would be cool.
Credit to our buddy Christine, who does our social media, who actually pointed out there was actually 3 times a What If and overlaid every time he gets murdered. It's very, very funny. It's very funny. I'm like, this is a lot of work, girl. Good job. Way to go. I have been entertaining in the back of my mind that he's going to come back, but this is one of those Aaron weird connect the dots things, is that they're getting ready to open up that multiverse ride at Avengers Campus here in California, like next year, I want to say. And King Thanos is the villain of that thing. And you know they don't promote anything that they can't sell merchandise off of or make you go watch on a streaming service or in a theater. So I'm like, is this going to happen closer than we think it will? Like, why? Because, I mean, of course, you know, he's a big Marvel villain. Like, who else would you have be like the villain of the big multiverse ride? But also, there are so many choices. Like, I was like, really? Thanos, what in the world? And then hear him say, I heard it from the grapevine. You know, through the What If stuff, that they can get him back to do voiceover whenever they want, which is great. That he actually says yes and is like excited about it too, which is really, really fun. He actually still kind of cares. So,
question:
as much as
was he always meant to be the villain of the multiverse ride, or was that a changed thing?
That was announced like years ago, I feel like.
2 years ago
It
during
was
the
like
pandemic.
King Thanos art. I think, wasn't it at D23? Not to do the bit again, but wasn't it at D23?
I didn't go to the parks panel. I wasn't there.
You were at D23, but not for that. It's been in the works. I feel like they were kind of riding the high of the Infinity Saga, and as a result of that, it's like we're gonna have Thanos be the villain.
Jitta, there's so much weird stuff in there. Like Miles is in that ride.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Like it's like I was like, what is happening?
I remember we got like Werewolf by Night and like Man-Thing in there for the first time.
There.
Yeah, She-Hulk, Daredevil, like all of these things in there where it was like, how are we getting? It was the Crab Rangoon thing again of like, how are we getting the first look at this through concept art for a theme park ride? But yeah, he's gonna come back. I think Aaron hit the nail on the head of like the King Thanos of it all is definitely part of it. But yeah. So on the topic of other Infinity Saga related returns, Jeremy Renner has talked a lot this week about potentially coming back as Hawkeye, including talking to me yesterday. I interviewed him for his Silk Super Bowl ad. And I asked him, if he were to come back as Hawkeye, what would he most want to explore? And his answer was flexibility. I'm stretching as we talk about this, like no joke. Yeah, I don't know. I leave the storytelling and the narrative to the writers and all of that, but I do love the character. And if they called and asked for me to do it, I'll be prepared. Feige, I'm stretching right now, my guy. So it was such a sweet answer. I was like laughing on the call as he said it, but I love that he's like so enthusiastic, especially after all of his recovery and everything, about coming back and kind of showing that side of Hawkeye. How do we feel about this?
I want to see him as Hawkeye in like the Young Avengers movie. Like if you throw Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye in there, we've already seen how he can interact with a younger person, in Hawkeye itself, but just like have him be managing all the kids would be fun to see. I can't lie.
I'm like happy for him. He's worked really hard on this
Yeah.
recovery, and to be like excited and be like, I'm ready, I can physically do it, is really nice. And I like Nick's idea. Like the idea of him being kind of like the Fury of the Young Avengers, but like a soft dad kind of a version really works for me. I really, especially, I loved the show Hawkeye so much that I want to see Haley take up the mantle and be that, but I don't also never want to see Clint again. I'd like to see him in maybe some little capacity.
I think an odd couple dynamic between him and White Vision leading them kids would be very, very funny. It would be very, very good. There's some real mileage there to have Clint in the kids' ears. Like, yeah, we're not going to listen to Robot here. We're going to listen to me. All right, you're going to do this, this, this. It's like, that's illogical. And it would be good. It's just good. Bettany and him would work well together. He obviously, you don't want to put him in any real crazy situations until you know his legs and stuff are good to go and his like physical whatever. Unlike some aging superstars, he's not just going to get out there on no exercise and try to go out here and do things. So that would be fun.
Wow.
That'd be great.
I will say in his Super Bowl commercial, he's like doing roundhouse kicks and a lot of stuff. So like he's ready. He could definitely do it if Feige called him like tomorrow and asked him to start doing stuff. So
I need to go buy some silk.
Exactly. So yeah, and then for our final will they or won't they return, it's Sam Rockwell. Jamie, take it away.
Yeah, you know that Jenna put me on this one. Sam Rockwell was on Jimmy Fallon and was asked about a potential Marvel return, which of course we all know would be Armor Wars. And he said, well, I'm waiting for the phone call. I haven't gotten the phone call. No, I'm growing the beard and everything. Listen, I'm in, dude. Yeah, let's go. It's happening. As long as Armor Wars still happens, which to me, I feel like we're at like an 80%. If Armor Wars is happening, we're getting Sam Rockwell. And if we don't get Sam Rockwell on Armor Wars, I'm going to probably cry live on Phase Zero about it because it's all I've ever wanted for so long. He clearly wants to do it. He just came back for What If. It's not like he hasn't been in touch with Marvel. He has. It's happening. I don't know. What do you guys think?
We need to like clip that and just show that of like, do you want Jamie to cry? No, then put Sam Rockwell in Armor Wars. Like, we need to start the campaign now. He has to come back. I feel like he would want to come back. I feel like it's the perfect context for him to come back. Having watched Argyle over the weekend, I do think like him being in another like big screen action thing would be great to see. So I'm all for it. I feel like it's going to happen.
I mean, anything that keeps him away from Argyle 2
Yeah.
or Argyle Book 1, the movie, I think was the next one they announced. So, anything that keeps him far away from that, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Book 1, the movie. What in the world?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's-
Whatever.
We'll talk about this off mic. It makes no sense.
It's
Like,
Crab
okay,
Rangoon
all right.
once
it
again.
boggled my brain. It boggled my brain for like the entire rest of the day. So
Well, I'm going to keep it focused on stuff that's like we're going to be positive about. Okay. So not only did he have this interview on the Tonight Show, he also talked to GQ. They did that thing where they go through all of his roles and he talks about them. He talked about Justin Hammer and doing the strut and whatever. And then the producer asked him, like, would you come back for Armor Wars? He's like, oh, yeah, I'm down. Like, if I get the call, Kevin, what's up? That's 2 times in like 4 days that he's like, yo, I will go be in Armor Wars. So I think that's a pretty good bet. Also, if you're leading into this whole nostalgia for the Infinity Saga, people miss Tony Stark, people miss the Phase 1 and 2 movies. Bringing Justin Hammer back to be the bad guy makes a lot of sense. I got to level with you. In some ways, I'm more excited about that movie, about Armor Wars, than I would be for like Fantastic Four, just because I don't know. Like, I don't know what shape Fantastic Four would be in. I am down.
And Rob wasn't it? Me too. I will also be more excited for it.
Does Justin Hammer have like an Iron Man suit of his own in the comics? Is that something they've done?
off and on. Like the Armor Wars storyline is kind of like Tony's tech gets into every bad guy's hands and then like chaos ensues. And Justin Hammer is one of those people who gets like Iron Man tech. Yeah. So
yeah. Give us that.
and don't make Jamie cry. You
Yeah,
heard it
There we
here
go.
first.
Oh my
All
gosh.
right. Well, we're going to take another quick 1 minute break. And when we come back, we have some updates about the Marvels, maybe Young Avengers, and we have Aaron's Spicy Nugget of the Week. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Phase Zero. We knew something was going to happen in the middle of this show, some sort of breaking news of some sort. It's actually an update to one of our first stories from earlier in the show. So, Aaron, provide the details.
So we at the beginning of the show we talked about Pedro Pascal starting production on Fantastic Four, as said by the SAG Foundation website in his bio. That's probably, that's as good of the sources you're probably going to get for these things outside of, Deadline or like Kevin Feige himself making a Twitter account. We actually have an update where they have removed it from his bio. So either a mistake or Kevin made that call and y'all got to pull that down. Either way, it's not on the bio anymore.
It could totally be either, because I feel like somebody is probably in charge of writing that website's copy, right? And somebody probably that they could very well have heard that, or it might even be on IMDb, because sometimes things get updated prematurely, and thought that like this was official news because it's been talked about so much. I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of people out there who just believe that there has been an official announcement. So I think that this genuinely doesn't mean anything. It could really mean one way or the other. I don't think it confirms anything. It just leaves us in that same bubble we've been in for 25 years.
We're just Sisyphus pushing up the boulder, and the boulder just fell like a little bit, like as we're doing it right now. So we're going to get out of this eventually, but we never will. I don't know. Who knows? I'm still just baffled by the fact of like, if production's not starting till later this year, they are going to have to delay that May 2025 release date. Like, there is no way. But that's a whole separate conversation. But getting back to our regularly scheduled programming, Aaron.
Oh yeah, so we got Screen Rant talking to LaShawn Lynch about the Marvels. Our buddy Joe Deckelmeyer talked to her about how much she knew about coming back, and if she knew anything about what's coming up. So she said, I did know going to the movie. I didn't know what would happen next. I don't know anything, literally. Every single increment of the character has been play by play. So I knew about Captain Marvel, and then I knew about Doctor Strange, and then I knew about the Marvels, and I didn't even get the script for that. I just had those moments. I know what you know, and that's it. Well played, ma'am. So it seems as though that also there's a very funny bit of the interview where she says that she was on a Zoom with Krasinski and I want to say Haley Atwell, and they all got into the Zoom and were like, what are you doing here? Which is like great. It's a great visual. Like, I wish put it in the movie. How do you guys feel about her? And do you think we're going to see her anytime soonish?
Like, we talked about this on the Monday episode about X-Men a little bit, but it is fascinating to me. Like, we knew she would be back in some capacity in this movie, if at very least for the flashback sequence with Carol. Like, I always assumed we were going to get some sort of flashback to her. So the fact that she at least knew that, but doesn't know what's next after this, doesn't surprise me. But yeah, I like the way that she played it. She's not sharing too much or too little.
I think it'd be crazy if we didn't get binary soon. Like, and it'd be really funny if Deadpool 3 has Kelsey Grammer as Beast, but then there's no mention of binary. It would be like in the Marvels when Nick Fury just doesn't have a wife anymore after Secret Invasion. I think it would feel like that. I think that if we get Beast, we better get her. But again, I still can't decide if all this stuff is leading up to Deadpool 3, he kills the Fox universe, or Secret Wars versus the Fox universe. I still haven't decided what we're getting in that regard, but I think we have to see her again.
Nick?
Ooh, no, I'm still thinking about the Fox universe, the versus. That's such a cool idea. Yeah, like, I mean, if we're going to see Tiana Paris again, which is, a guarantee, then we're going to see her again too. Like, they're kind of tied at the hip in terms of story and in terms of where they are, quite literally, in the Marvel multiverse. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of stuck on that versus the X-Men universe thing. That's that's so cool.
Oh my gosh.
With it available at home now, people are really realizing, like, wow, wait a second. Like, some random posts on Twitter, like, wait a second, the end of this has the Fox universe in it. And I was like, you should have been in the theater. You wouldn't be saying this half a year after it happened. Welcome to.
I'm amazed that people are learning that information now, after I felt like the leaks the week of that, like, everyone was trying to avoid, were so rampant. And now I can tell they weren't as rampant as I thought they were. So,
it's almost as if people should have cared about the Marvels when it came out, right? What a fun concept that is. Like,
Who'd have thought? Jamie, were you going to say something?
Oh, I think I was just gonna say that sometimes we live on a different internet than most of the people in this world. It's just a fact, and sometimes I have to remember that we live in a pocket that feels like everything. It's like the same thing with the Daredevil leaks. It's like we see them all, but I'm sure 80% of the population, and that's generous, probably 95%, have not seen any of those things.
they probably don't know Daredevil's coming back again in a
Yeah,
show.
You're probably right.
Like,
Yeah.
So, keeping the topic of the Marvels going, we have a big meaty quote from Catherine Newton about the ending of the movie. So, Jamie, read that quote.
Oh, you gave me a big one. So Catherine Newton spoke to THR. She said, in the Marvel Universe, you hope, speaking about the possibility of being, a Young Avengers, you hope to be. My whole thing is that I grew up watching Iron Man, and I feel like I grew with that character. So my hope for Cassie Lang has always been to grow with my audience, be it the people who are my age and saw Quantumania, or the people who are just starting to watch Marvel movies at a young age. I saw one when I was a little young, but I still love those movies. So if I get an opportunity to continue the story, then that would be so cool to be a part of a generation that's growing up with a film. It's such a big part of my life, but they don't really tell you. They tell you an overall, but I don't take anything for granted. I'm just trying to get through the day. Let's finish one movie and then let's continue. But I would very much also jump at the opportunity to work with Marvel Studios again. I think that's a quote. It's kind of what we get from everybody these days. Like, I don't know, maybe, I hope. It is just the go-to answer. Also, I don't know about you, but this quote made me feel old. I felt old. This was my first time reading it, and as I was reading it, I like got older because I saw Iron Man the week I graduated high school, and to be like, I was a little child when Iron Man came out. I'm like, oh God. I'm turning 34 next week, you guys, and it's really hitting me. But
it's
anyway,
a fun club.
Good.
Yeah. you get more Marvel movies with age, I guess. I don't know. I was trying to come up with a but Catherine Newton is super talented, like in everything she's been in. I don't think I've been disappointed by a single performance, and that includes Quantumania, regardless of how that was received. So I'm hoping she gets to show up in a Young Avengers thing down the line, because it's also like why not? You have all these talented people in your roster. You have all these projects that could use beefing up by just random heroes showing up here and there. So it's just like why not? Just toss people in where you can.
Aaron?
Like, first of all, our FSA is coming up. So if you're at the age we are, go get your eyes checked out. Or go update your prescription, because you shouldn't be watching your phones like this with our aged eyes. I think that she's doing it right too, because I think they Deadline talked to her on the carpet for Lisa Frankenstein yesterday, and then she was just like, well, next time I can go to Marvel, I just want another super suit. That's what I'm hoping for. I can't hope for anything else. And I'm like, she's a very good outlook on this whole thing. She has a very, very nice outlook on this whole thing. I also think that the last couple years of people saying stuff in the press, all the leaks and stuff, has led them to all like the company to turtle a lot more and just try and keep everything in, just real Dana Carvey with it. See how old I am? Like, you got to.
Oh no, Aaron!
Oh my God!
I love you, Jamie. You got it immediately. Nick's dying. Oh, it's great. It's just very, very funny that they can't let anybody know anything anymore, for lest it get blasted all over the internet. And now we gotta either change or keep the same thing. It's gonna be interesting to see. Like I said, this summer at Comic-Con is going to be wildly entertaining, because if you announce any more stuff, people are going to be like, what about the stuff that was already from 2 years ago and 3 years ago? So there's a lot to look forward to. But I think we're getting that Young Avengers thing. You don't have that tag at the end of that movie and bring back freaking Haley Steinfeld to like not do that,
I just got war flashbacks at the Dana Carvey turtle, everything. Like, oh my God, that just took me back. Wow. Well, Aaron, your comment goes perfectly into the next point that I had, which was, I know we are all Young Avengers fans on the show and like really, really want to see the project. And obviously with the Marvels is ending, it feels like it's kind of on the way. Just going around, do we want to see it as a movie or a TV show? Because that alone has been a huge point of contention.
I'll go
All right.
first. I want a movie. I want a movie. I don't want a show. And a part of that is just because a lot of these shows just feel like movies cut up into 6 pieces anyway. And I think that if you put a movie called Young Avengers in theaters, it will do well. Because one, I think that if I didn't know much about Marvel and I saw Young Avengers, in my mind, I would think, is that maybe a prequel or something? It feels like maybe I don't need a lot of information to go see this movie. I really think it would do well, and I think that these young actors deserve to be on the big screen doing this, and that's how I would like to see it. That being said, if it was a show, obviously I'd be seated in my living room for it.
Aaron?
I think it's gonna end up having to be a movie just because of all this talk about budgets and stuff like that. Like, there's no room for you to make $200 million TV show that doesn't involve Tom Hiddleston. So unless he can be in it, I mean, he could be in it too. He could just be in weird CGI tiny Tom Hiddleston alongside the other Young Avengers, because that happened in the comics. So I think it'll probably end up being a movie. I mean, listen, the one thing that everybody did pay attention for the Marvels is Iman Vellani. So get her on that poster, get her in a tag or like a trailer, and it really would be like something to see. I'm pretty sure, like, and like JB said, the 95% of the other people on the internet who don't follow this stuff religiously would see Young Avengers in the theater and be like, oh, I like that,
Nick, what about you?
See, so this before all the Kang stuff happened, I remember talking to Aaron way back when about this. I thought that's what Kang Dynasty was going to be. I thought that this whole multiverse saga was going to be introducing all these new heroes and all these new faces, so that when Kang Dynasty happened, something would happen to the OGs, and they'd be separated off and come back in Secret Wars, and we'd have a whole movie with just the new crew, with just like these new people have been introduced. So I thought that's what Avengers 5 was going to be, to give us the team up movie of all the new people we've seen, and that includes Young Avengers. But if it means, like, if we do have to get a Young Avengers movie on its own, I want that. I think it's bigger than a series. A series would do it a disservice. A series, unfortunately, puts it in this box of like, we see them, they may never get a season 2, they may never get another thing again, we may never see them again. No one may see it. That's it might be one of those things, but it would do it a disservice to kind of fracture it off into the Disney Plus world when it deserves a film project. Team up movies and like team ups in general deserve like this film project.
I would just like to say, please don't put it up against another freaking Lucasfilm thing so it can get murdered. That was what happened last time this happened. That's what caused all this BS in the first place. But go on, Jenna.
I will say I'm conflicted, because I agree with all of you of like, it deserves a movie, it deserves the massiveness of it. But like, there is a small part of me that feels like it could really, really work as a TV show. And I also think the fact that when you look at like who could hypothetically be on the Young Avengers roster, almost all of them were introduced in TV projects. And as much as everyone on this panel loves the Marvels, I feel like a lot of the conversation around the Marvels was whether or not you already knew the characters from subscribing to Disney Plus. So I would almost be worried if it became a movie that, as much as it's easy to just sell their Young Avengers, go watch it. Like, I don't know if general audiences who don't have Disney Plus would recognize any of the characters that they're really seeing. So I'm conflicted. I could see either one. I also would not mind a TV show purely just for the length of time to really get into the character dynamics. But I also could just see like a massive, massive movie working really well. So
that's a great point. It's a great point, because it'd be like the Netflix Defenders thing, right? Like, Defenders was what, like 8 episodes, I think, bringing them all together, and that felt cool. So yeah, but it's streaming stuff, so I don't know if a Defenders movie would have worked. I mean, it would have been on Netflix anyway, so I guess that argument's out the window. But I'm just talking in circles here. My bad.
I just don't trust like the idea of like getting to know each character and taking that time. I just don't think Disney Plus would do that. If you really want to do it right, give us a 22 episode Young Avengers, but that's never going to happen, especially with these actors and how big their careers are getting. They're not going to come and do a 22 episode show anyway. And 6 episodes is, again, it's just a movie that feels a little long. So
we'll wait and see. Like, who knows at this point? But yeah. And then to end things today, we have another Aaron Spicy Nugget of the Week.
Oh boy, it's my favorite time of the week. It's time for a spicy nugget. I laugh because I really love the Young Avengers thing, and I was like, man, that's really, really good. But I did have to talk about this because my corner of Twitter was talking about this. So Nielsen released their streaming rankings for 2023. They do all the best, like the most streamed shows, most streamed the series, most streamed, like, movies, prestige dramas, all that stuff. And a surprise Marvel film is the most streamed live action movie of 2023. That's right. Black Panther Wakanda Forever beat out freaking Avatar: The Way of Water. And I want to say, was there something else at the last one? Now, granted, these results are interesting because Warner Brothers took a metric F ton of time to put Barbie on streaming, and Universal did the same thing with Oppenheimer. And if they had been available closer to their release dates, I'm pretty sure they would have been higher than these movies that are a whole year old. But it is interesting to see, because if you hear people tell, it's like, oh, no one likes these things anymore, no one watches this stuff anymore, when clearly the numbers not bear that. Also, do you realize children watch cartoons? The entire top 7 is all animated movies, like all of it. Like Frozen and Moana are 1 and 2, which is wild. You know how long in Encanto? There's like some of the top 4. And I'm like, man, oh man, I feel so terrible for the parents out there. Stay strong. I know you have those songs burned into your heads. So how does everybody feel about that? Does it change your opinions? Does it make you think about the stuff we've talked about with people waiting to see things on Disney Plus? Because 6.8 billion minutes watched is nuts.
Sorry, Jenna.
Jamie, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like I've said this before, but I really think that this is proof that the Marvels is going to crush on Disney Plus. I don't know if it's going to do as well as Wakanda Forever. I don't think that, but I do think that this is a very big indication that that's coming. We are going to see the Marvels doing really well. And I think a lot of that, we've talked about this a lot, movies are expensive. And a movie like the Marvels, a movie like Wakanda Forever are the movies that families want to go see. They want to see them. But right now, with the economy the way that it is, it's just not easy to take your families there. But it is easy to sit them all in front of Disney Plus. Also, parents might be over watching Frozen, but so is poor Tony, because I definitely contributed to Frozen.
I think Jamie nailed it. I think it's really interesting to look at like Captain Marvel and Black Panther both making $1 billion when they came out just a couple of years ago. And then now just seeing how rapidly just viewing habits have changed. Like obviously COVID exacerbated everything and got people to this point of not really going to the theaters unless something is an event that is worth their time. And so obviously Wakanda Forever made a lot of money, but seeing that it then had this second life on streaming, I think is great, because considering how many people watched the first Black Panther, this kind of signifies that a close amount of people are watching or rewatching it on streaming. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, considering how many times Moana has been played in my house, this is no surprise. Cool for Black Panther. Congratulations, because that movie rules, and any support it gets way after its release is fantastic. More, please.
There's a reason that you've got Disneyland building, was it like a $7 billion addition to the park here, or trying to get Anaheim to help them finance it. And the biggest part of that expansion is a Wakanda part of Avengers Campus. That's what the biggest part of it is. They know, they do the market research. They know what's going on. Like they can say whatever you want about the business decisions otherwise, but the parks people, like Chapek's old backyard, they know what's going down. They know what's up.
It's the Namor thing, you see Wakanda and you're like, oh, the air is so pristine here. I've heard stories of this place, right. And it's like, yeah, when you see it in action, you're like, yeah, this rules. Give us this world. It's the Avatar effect, right? Where it's like when I don't see Wakanda, I feel kind of bummed because I'm not in Wakanda anymore.
I will say too, Chapek wanted this place to wanted the company to be a streaming company, and for these numbers, it seems like that's what they did, which is hilarious because it's not that profitable, but they succeeded somehow. I don't know if it's actually, is it success if it's not working? I don't know.
Is it success if it's not working? It just feels like a proverb. I love it. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Like with the Marvels is on Disney Plus today, right? I'm
is.
pretty sure
Sure
it is.
is.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get numbers for that sooner than later, and hopefully it will be kind of a similar sort of pattern. Because as everyone on this panel would probably agree, like the movie deserves it. But yeah, so that's it for this week's Phase Zero. I think this was a lot of fun. We survived. We only had one piece of breaking news during it, so that was great. Aaron, you're at the top of the board. What do you want to plug this week?
It's at Someone Like Corner on Twitter. I would like to say condolences and sort of been thinking a lot about man, oh man, like I've watched a lot of Rocky clips over the last probably 6 days or 5-6 days, and it's amazing to see the impact Carl Weathers had on pop culture kind of as a whole, weirdly enough, for a guy who was like never like, he was never such a Stallone, but you could still have such an impact. So go watch some of that stuff with yourself. Or if you're like me, mainline the Come Fly With Me from the end of the first Creed. Delightful. Makes you want to run through a wall.
Or watch Arrested Development, because his appearances on Arrested Development
You
are
gotta still
iconic.
going.
I cannot watch a clip of it without laughing, and I'm so glad that like so many people have been celebrating that this week, because you gotta Stu going just lives rent free in my brain all the time. So Jake, you have to plug this week.
Hard act to follow. I've said so many times in my life, like Carl Weathers deserved his own action franchise in the way that Arnold and Sly had their own franchises. He was such a singular talent. But speaking of singular talents, you should follow me on Letterboxd at Jamie Jirak, because I am doing a Travolta month. My favorite actor of all time turned 70 this month, so I'm watching a lot of his films. I want to shout out to Layla, who's been joining me in this journey and who is learning that John Travolta has made a lot of bad movies. Like, I can't deny it. He's made a lot of bad ones, but I've been having a great time watching some for the first time. So if you want to learn more about that, follow me on Letterboxd.
I saw that Gotti was on your list, and I was like, "Oh boy!" Like I cannot wait to hear your.
It's my first time.
I haven't watched it either, but just hearing about it, I'm so excited to read your review. Like, because I'm sure it's going to be a masterpiece. Nick, what do you have to plug this week?
I'm Valdezology on all the socials. I also recently joined Letterboxd. It's all jokes though, so if you don't follow, that's fine. It's just for me to remember what I watched. I've also interviewed the cast of SpongeBob ahead of their big game takeover this coming weekend, which is great, fantastic. And if you also happen to watch RuPaul's Drag Race, I'm over at Pop Culture Social Call, where we're going through the latest season each week after each episode.
Love it. I'm at Hey It's Gentleman on social media. As always, go read some comics. This week I had new issues of Birds of Prey, Fire and Ice, and She-Hulk. So I'm running to the comic book store on Saturday, even though I've already read all of the issues. But so you definitely go read some comics. And go read my Jeremy Renner interview. He was delightful. Go watch our Zawe Ashton interview once it drops on Monday, because the energy was infectious. Like BD and I had such a great time, and I think you guys are gonna have a great time watching it. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice and on YouTube at youtube.com/phase0. We will be back very soon for some sort of episode, and then we will have that Zawe Ashton episode on Monday. So stay tuned and take care.